Hey Hunnies, just popping on here quickly before we dive right into this episode. So first off, here's your trigger warning for the episode. This episode contains talk about anxiety, depression, depressive episodes, major reoccurring depression, bullying, PTSD, and other mental health subjects as well. Also, please take note that this episode was recorded in May of 2024. If you are listening in the future, I am recording this part on, Saturday, August 17th of 2024. So with that being said, obviously there are some things that have obviously changed, are out of date, and needs to be corrected because, I either didn't get it right, or I forgot something, left something out, whatever. Take it or leave it. Which, in fact, one thing that has changed is my personal TikTok and Instagram handle. It is now at original.heatherdonovan, not the other one that will be mentioned in this episode, so that's a correction right there. Other things will be corrected and updated in future episodes. Also, don't mind the editing. My old editor that I was paying $50 an hour to edit these episodes, he would charge me 1.5 to 2 hours worth of work. But then I would check their work, because, if you're not double checking somebody's work before putting it out, what are you doing? When I would check it, I would find that they didn't fully edit everything that they were supposed to, even though I explicitly told them to, and told them where the parts were and all that stuff. Then I'd have 6 hours of the episode left to edit. It's like, why? With that being said, please keep in mind that I am very much a perfectionist. Of course, that has its ups and downs, but in this case, it is definitely a down for sure, because then I find out that I over-edit an episode after I finish editing, because I didn't think it sounded right in the moment, and all that stuff. My point is that I apologize if the first 10 minutes are over-edited. I realized this mistake when I listen to the episode as a whole, so be a little gentle as I am learning, trying, doing my best with the very limited resources I have right now, and doing the very best with the very little I have at this time. I am working to do better in the future. I'm the only one working on this podcast as a whole. I don't have anyone to help me, so keep that in mind. And that's okay. I have always known that it would probably always be me alone, because, it's kind of been like that throughout my whole entire life, where I've had to only 100% depend on myself for something and do something myself, so it's great. Why change it now? Now, on to the original episode. Hey, Hunnies! Welcome back to Life is a Question Mark podcast here. This is a podcast where you never know what will be happening next. Heck, I never even know sometimes to tell it is indeed already happening, already said and done, the whole entire shebang. I'm your host that always keeps you on your toes and is such a question mark of a person, Heather Donovan. So let me officially welcome you all to Season 2 of the podcast. I would have done it, on the last episode, which is officially the first episode of Season 2, except, I didn't decide until it was already recorded and sent to the editor, that whole entire deal. So, I made the decision to make a Season 2 because I haven't recorded any recent episodes in a while, and, I kind of wanted to start the podcast with a whole new, stress-free start, if you know what I mean. If you don't, what are you doing? Do better. So, because I haven't recorded in a while, I thought that I'd do an episode where I just check in with you all. Because, it's been a very hot minute and, some things have changed, some developments have happened, blah, blah, blah. I'm also doing this episode because it also correlates with Mental Health Awareness Month. You'll understand why in a little bit. With that being said, I need to make a trigger warning before I even continue. Some topics that will be brought up in this episode includes anxiety, depression, bullying, major recurring depression, trauma, and PTSD. If any of these topics even have a slight possibility of triggering you in any way, shape, or form, I encourage you to either listen with caution or just skip this episode altogether. Your health matters and how you feel is very valid. This episode will also always be here if you are ever able to listen to it without being triggered. I honestly even debated on bringing any of this up, but after thinking long and hard about it, I've decided to go through with it. Well, clearly, I'm going to talk about it, so there's that. If my story and pain can be a teaching moment or even a small light and hope in somebody else's life, it's worth it to me just to talk about and share all this stuff. Honestly, I haven't been in the best place over the last 8 months. Things were starting to slide downhill since August, and if you're listening in the future, August of 2023. But things just progressively kept going downhill to the point where I've just noticed that things were just not okay. And this was in November that I officially noticed, and I'm like, okay, I cannot ignore this anymore. So that's when I immediately found a therapist via Google that does virtual appointments. Virtual therapy appointments are better for me because I'm always on the go with a busy schedule. It saves me gas money and from driving 45 minutes over and back to their office, which is the closest office to me. Gotta love it. Living in nowhere, you know what I mean? And during therapy, virtually is usually easier for me than doing it in person. I just feel awkward and weird doing therapy in person. Like, there was this one time I went to therapy, and this was in person. This was like, oh my gosh, years ago. So I was just talking to her. She goes, "You feel very, very weird talking to me right now." And I go, "Yeah, I feel like I constantly have to talk." She goes, "Why do you have to feel like you're constantly talking?" I'm like, "Because, I don't like being in silence." And then she asked me if I would like to sit in silence for the rest of the therapy appointment. I said no. Because first off, if I wanted silence and alone time, I can do that at home or almost anywhere. What is that moment supposed to teach me? So I said no. I feel like I would just mention that quick story just to give an example of how awkward I feel during in-person therapy. As time went on, though, I've gotten somehow worse and worse, and I'm not really even sure why entirely. Kind of do, kind of don't, that kind of thing. But the thing is, I thought that I was getting better, but then I came to realize that this wasn't the case on the first Saturday of March in 2024. I probably should have known that sooner, but it's fine. The dance competition team that I am on and a part of went to a Fly's Regional Dance Competition. I was very excited, looking forward to going to this competition and competing days before the competition, even the day of. But something very weird happened to me that day that has never happened before. And yes, I have anxiety before going on stage and that kind of thing, but this is like a bad episode, and I'm about to describe it. I was alone in the dressing room, but there was another dance team there. Because, if you ever have competed on dance competitions teams or whatever, you know that most times we have to share rooms with other competition teams. It is what it is. And I've never seen them before. I never knew of them. And they were just in there with me. And I was just working on some work on my computer. Because, I always got something to do here, honeys. Then suddenly, I don't know what happened or why it even happened. But I went into this weird episode. And I'm going to try to describe it the best I can. I just was very, very sad. Like, I felt like I was on the verge of having a breakdown and crying. Just felt like I wasn't good enough, that I was a failure of a person, that I couldn't do anything right, that I didn't deserve to compete, and I don't know, it was very, very weird. But I couldn't even tell you, but that day I won one of my first in-person platinums, and then I got second place in the overalls. And I have had people tell me that that is really, really good, but I don't know, I just get into this weird, funky place. It was extra weird that day. It doesn't even help either that I'm a perfectionist and always think that I could do something better. So it's a great time. Also, the trauma of my past bullying doesn't help either. That's a great time. That day while I was in the episode, though, I knew that I just needed to contact my doctor immediately. And not even just because of the situation, but also because I realized that I was having some past thoughts I have experienced about 11 years before when I was at one of my very rock bottom moments in life. I honestly don't feel comfortable sharing these thoughts right now. Probably in a future light I will. Who knows? So I reached out for help immediately that Monday because competition was on a Saturday. And obviously, doctor's offices aren't open on Saturday or Sundays. So I had to wait till Monday. So I reached out to him immediately, and I've been getting help to him since then. My doctor's office was really, really good. I told him I was struggling. I really needed help, and they got me in the next day as early as they could. I was talking about it. He goes, "Well, this kind of doesn't surprise me because of all the trauma that you have experienced." But he told me that he honestly wasn't surprised that I was back in the state because I have something called major reoccurring depression. But because I've had such traumatic situations happen in my life and such traumatic things happen, it's because of that. My trauma is going to cause me to have reoccurring major depression. And that's why he diagnosed me with it. He goes, "I kind of was watching months ago because I kind of figured that you were about ready to go back into another one." So we've been playing around with medication, that kind of thing. There's another interesting part, I'll get to that later, medical-wise, and why there's another part of why I'm like that, and that doesn't help us. So, for those of you who are dance moms out there, obviously you know that one of the Dance Mom stars, Chloe Kiziak, and her other co-founders like Chrissy, Brittany Penn, and Diane Penn all came up with the Elevé competition. So we went to that in New Hampshire back in April, and I was very, very excited. Like, I was looking forward to it a week or two before this competition even happened. I was excited the day of, and then I don't even know what happened. I was just in the audience, and I was watching all these younger kids. Well, obviously, they're more flexible and they could do more than I can. 30 years old and had crappy technique teachers, and you know what I mean. I'm not even going to go all the way there, but you pretty much could tell where I'm going. But I don't even know what triggered me. I just thought I wasn't good enough, that I'm a failure, as a dance teacher. I even started isolating myself at one point. There was even a point, and it was because we were having a group dance, that I was going to tell my dance teacher that I was only going to be a part of the group dance, so I didn't let down the group. But there was a point where I did not want to compete my solos, and I could not even tell you what that was. But my therapist and I were working. I haven't seen her in a while, but it's fine. But the therapist and I have been working on this one technique Well, actually 2 technically. We've been working on breathing techniques, and then we've been working on clench your fist for 5 seconds and then release them. I was doing that, and it really does work, so I was better after that, and I calmed myself down. Let me tell you, I am really glad that I competed. That day I competed against, I believe it was, don't take my full word on it, I might be a couple numbers off. I competed in the adult category that was in the same category as I was, which was the intermediate, because, I can't do 40 turns and do like really fancy things, that kind of thing. We've talked about it already a few minutes ago. And then there was also 2 or 3 duo trios, and I was all in the same category as them. And I don't even know how this happened, but I got first and second for both solos. Even though in one of the solos, I fell on my air basket. I don't know what gave out on me, but something was given out, and I knew something was going to give out. I didn't know how to stop it. It just happened. I fell out of it. It's fine. And then there was one part I didn't know what happened in the moment, but I almost forgot a part, so I tried to fix it. But I knew I made a face, so yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. I do not regret performing. I am so proud and happy of how I performed. It was one of my best times. And honestly, one of the proudest moments of my life and days of my life that this has happened. But this is what happened. That night, I went back to my hotel because clearly I'm not going to drive back to New York State at 8 o'clock at night. And I don't know what happened. The minute I walked through that door, it wasn't anything to do with dance or anything like that. It was a weird kind of episode, but I have this premonition and intuition about something, but I just have my doubts about them. I'm not ready to say what they are yet or what they were. And I was just having doubts about what I'm doing in my life. And I'm just, well, honestly, I'm still not, but I wasn't happy with what I was doing in life. And I felt like I was a failure and yeah, that kind of thing. Like I was doing nothing right. Because I had this big, huge plans that weekend that I was gonna stay a day or 2 extra. I did stay the extra day, but I was just mostly sleeping and I just was trying to motivate myself to do stuff, but that's fine. I was gonna try to do extra TikTok videos and try to do extra promoting work for my podcast and do extra editing for the podcast and do extra Patreon stuff, da. But I just couldn't do it. There was no motivation and this episode was so bad. So what ended up happening is because I knew that I wanted to go home to see my fur babies because it's not good for me to be alone in these type of situations. And I didn't really know who else to be around in this situation. I didn't really feel like talking about it. So I just went home to be with my fur babies. They really help. I don't know what I would do without them. Last time you guys knew, I was working at the gas station. Technically, I'm still working at the gas station, but my hours have started being cut since February. Although I gave them plenty of opportunities to offer me hours, and I have been offered them many alternatives and things that I could do, like clean the bathrooms first thing in the morning, or go do the cooler first thing in the morning, or da. No, they just want to keep me that 8 to 2, and they're mad that I can't work any later at 2 because, my dance teaching. And they knew I had that extra job, so they were just being pains. And I told them I'd come in early and I'd do different stuff. But nope, they're not having it. So because of part of that reasoning, they've cut my hours. And then when I would work, there are a bunch of lazy employees there that don't do anything. So when I get there, I have to make up the work and do it all. But I really slacked back within the last couple of weeks. I'm just not making enough money off of it. And there's a point too where I don't know what happened to hours things, but I was working enough days where I was making them give me at least 1 day off per week because I was in so much pain that week from working that many days. And then I wanted to get stuff done for the podcast and that kind of thing, or go to my appointments. But, management has not been helpful. I'm going to say that in the nicest way possible. I am trying very hard to be careful with what I'm saying here because I'm still technically employed there. And then all the part-timers got together too. And we have all figured out that our hours have been cut. And we're not really even sure why. But I know none of us are really making enough to make a living. So, there's that. And that's pretty crucial considering how much debt I'm in. And I'll be open and honest about that. I'll talk about that in a minute. And I also realized I did not want to do this for the rest of my life and that there would be no way of me going up the ladder or anything. And even if I did, would I really want to in that career choice, especially in that environment? Because also the environment is very dramatic. Like I would get text messages when I wasn't there for a week or 2 and they're just telling me about the drama. It's like, I don't care. I do not care about the drama. Leave me alone. It's just a lot. And then some of the customers are nasty. They yell at us about the self-checkout. And it's like, we didn't pick this or anything like that. I don't even know if that's part of the reason why they cut hours. I don't think so. I have a whole entire different theory that I don't feel comfortable saying right now. So it's really lovely. So with all that being said, I've had to go back to substitute teaching because I just wasn't making enough hours there. And I really didn't want to go back. I really struggled with it. And it was practically struggling with anxiety of fear of going back. And I had multiple teachers at admin begging and asking for me to come back, even some students too. I really didn't want to go back and I really wanted to make it a goal not to go back, but I had to because I was, and actually I still am, more in the hole than I was back in February when they started cutting my hours. It's just a little more worse now, so it's really cute. But since I've been back, I've been getting a lot more money than I was at the gas station and more hours too. I'm not in as much pain anymore. I'm being more appreciative at my job. Weird, right? And everyone has been so nice and supportive that I've been back. It's just a whole entire different experience. Being a substitute teacher has reminded me how much I am loved, how much I really do matter in the world, and how I really do make a difference in the world, even in the littlest of ways. I am apparently also a mentor and teaching students and others more than I think I do, which, I mean, that's beyond me. And I also spread more happiness and positivity than I also thought, so that's something. I also feel mentally more better than I was when I was working at the gas station, which I think working there was a big part of the problem on me, and I wonder if that's part of my physical pain was too, because it all goes hand in hand. What all this has currently confirmed over the last couple of weeks since I had to go back and take this job is that the gas station job has been part of the problem. My major recurring depression and mental health and emotional state, it just hasn't been healthy for me at all. Especially when I have no help and support from management, even though I've asked them for help multiple times, nothing is done. So much so that I have realized that I do not know if I can go back to that job, even to collect my sick time that I've earned. But cannot collect until, I have been employed with them for about a year because I am classified as a part-time employee. And if you're a part-time employee, then you cannot collect it after a year after employment. But I don't even know if it's worth it to go back just for roughly about 20 hours of sick time pay. And recently I've put in a note to the gas station telling them I will not be available till mid-June when school gets out because I'm guaranteed work there. I'm making more money there and I am appreciated there and I know my own worth. And I don't even know if I want to go back because I even told them that I'd be available for Memorial Day weekend. Don't even know if I want to go in for that pay. So I don't know because maybe I'll stay home and apply for more jobs. That's also the thing too. I've been applying for multiple at-home jobs lately. And here's why I'm trying to get an at-home job. I'd save a ton of money on gas because right now I'm spending about $40 per week on gas and I barely go anywhere. I go home to work, dance, maybe a few doctor's appointments. That's it. I want the flexibility that working from home gives. And even if I don't want to work at home in the surroundings, I want one of those jobs where I can just pick up my computer and go finish the work somewhere else or go have a change of scenery, that kind of thing. And I could be home with my animals, especially with my puppy who's a little behavioral and my dog who's getting a little up there in age. And so I can knock out more of my debt. And one way by knocking out most of my debt is by getting rid of this gas bill and making it less. I'll be honest about the debt I'm in and how I've got in it. Well, back in 2021, I had this cleaning job that had me going back and forth 2 hours away from home and then back to home. They were convincing me that they were paying me back all this mileage and it was all hunky-dory. Then I turn around and there's $500 on my card and I was not getting anything back out of it. Then also that same summer, my debit card from Heritage Family Credit Union, yes, I'm going to out you, I do not care, kept getting hit for fraud all summer long, even before I got the new one in the mail. So I couldn't access it. So I had to put all my subscriptions and all my other monthly bills and stuff on credit cards that summer. I did not have the knowledge or know that or to think that I could switch banks and open another checking account somewhere else. So I racked up a ton of debt that way. And of course the interest added up and it's just a huge mess. I am trying my hardest every day to get back up. I've pretty much stopped spending everything but on dancing on the podcast. But even these purchases are very, very minimal. Everyone, especially my doctors, agree that dance needs to stay and be a priority in my life because it's really one of the only things that keeps me sane, and I will talk about that in a little bit more detail in a little bit. And I started my podcast on a very minimal budget to begin with because I really wanted and always have wanted to do my own podcast or YouTube channel or something like this in my life. My thought was that I have to start small and somewhere, and I always knew that it wasn't going to be big, especially to start off. So, there's that. I am always on the go and never stopping, always trying to find a new solution or a way, even any extra ways that could help me improve the financial situations. I'm even enrolled with National Debt Relief, which, hey, if you guys want to sponsor me, that'd be awesome, Hunnies, so then I can pay you back faster. I have enrolled with them since, I think it was 2022 or something like that. April 2023. I've been paying debt back with them, and I'm really trying to work hard. It just sucks. And I know it's just not me living all these hardship life. Because, I'm living the true classic American dream right now where we're all struggling. Am I right or am I wrong? I know 100% of you are going to say I'm right. What I want in life is I want to become financially stable and at the minimum pay off my debt and live a comfortable lifestyle. I want to be home a little more than I am now, especially spend time with my fur babies because, like I said, my dog is 15 years old now. And my puppy, he's not even a puppy, he's turning 2 this month. Maybe he has already turned 2. Oh my gosh. But he has some behavioral issues that I need to take control of, but haven't been able to because I haven't been home. I want to be able to travel the world and have all different kinds of experiences. I want this podcast to grow bigger and become successful. And I really would like it to become my main job someday. Who knows if that will happen? I don't know. But I hope to interview really cool people that are really inspiring, that makes a difference on the world, that are real role models. I want to travel with the podcast. I want to create new things and experience and just inspire others in general. I want to make a positive impact and change in the world and just leave my footprint in that way. I just want bigger things in my life, but who doesn't? I am trying every single day to change and do better in the things that only I can control. Although I feel like I am consistently being knocked over and over again, and just one thing seems to get better, 5 more things get worse. And I'm sure that a lot of you are with me on this. One of my worst episodes just currently happened. So the Saturday and Mother's Day weekend of May 2024, again, if you're listening to this way in the future, was happening. Why didn't you listen to it in the present? Bro, do better. Every competition that we've went to this year, I've always gone towards the last, so later at night or something, 7, 8 o'clock at night, something like that for the first one of my dances, and the other one would be sometime after that. So I'd be closing part of the competition. But instead, I was one of the first ones to go and dance in this competition. It was kind of bad. I had no time really to overthink. And I'm an overthinker because, anxiety and perfectionist here. I am not even sure how to word this, but I'm just going to use these words, even though I don't think they're proper wording. But I felt kind of rushed and unprepared in a sense because of the situation. And, it's just personally me. But, after that day, and I think it was because I didn't have time to overthink it and get my anxiety up and all that stuff, I felt like I did the best that I have done so far this year in any of the competitions. But then awards came out and I got high silver placings for both solos. Let me be honest with you, it felt like a total slap in the face. I absolutely was proud of how I did, and it just had me questioning how bad it was. And I don't know, honestly. I am known as what some people would call a closet crier. What that is basically that I do not cry in public so nobody sees it or anything like that and nobody knows about it. And I don't like crying in front of people and anything like that. But I don't know how I kept it in from having a breakdown. I felt like I was ready to have a breakdown. One of the reasoning is that I felt like I didn't make my own personal qualification stipulations to continue dancing. Because one of the things that I have said to myself in the past is that if I ever go back in the silver category, because I mostly maintain golds and high gold, which is fine, I'm happy with those, then I need to finish up the dance year and permanently retire from dance and just finish with it. I think that even hurts more. I'm just so heartbroken and disappointed. I feel like a failure and a disappointment. It makes me feel like a bad dancer. And this also makes me feel like I'm a bad dance teacher because it makes me question if I'm teaching them the best way, if I'm really doing the best job, that kind of thing. And I'm really sorry if a lot of this episode is not making sense. It's very hard to talk about. I'm chugging through it. Many medical professionals that I have talked to have told me, and I even know this myself, that dance isn't the problem. It's actually helping me get better and stay better in a mental health way. I love dance and it is a passion of mine. And personally, I don't know what my identity would be if I stopped dancing altogether. I don't even know who I'd be as a person. Dancing is all I know. When I dance, even if I am the worst pain ever or that I am in a long time, the pain just goes away and so does my inner battles and worries. It just helps me stay sane altogether. I also love teaching dance. I love seeing the joy and happiness that radiates off my students and teaching the students new things, especially when they are so hungry and ready to learn. It is something that I just wouldn't trade for anything else in the world. Just one of those things that I wouldn't give up. What my dance future looks like as of now because of the situation, and I am still very conflicted and to be addressed. For my dance future as of right now, I will be continuing to teach dance classes next dance season, but it is very up in the air right now on what I will be doing dance-wise in the next dance season. It has been suggested by my friends, and I've even thought of this option that I don't do the dance competition team next year. But the thing is, though, is that I want to, and it really hurts when I think about not doing it next dance season. I love going to these new places where most likely I wouldn't have gone to begin with, and I love the new dance experiences that I wouldn't have gotten to have, but I clearly wouldn't have if I was on a competition team. And these two last reasons are the most important ones. The first one is that I love performing on stage in front of people. I can't put my finger on why exactly, but I just love it and look forward to performing on a stage in front of an audience. Despite the anxiety I get before performances, this last reasoning is that I have recently discovered that when I went back and recorded dances from my past dance recitals for the Patreon podcast to post, I do it for little Heather. Looking back, little Heather just went through so much at a very early age. She was dealing with adult issues and all of the other bullying and traumatic situations all around her when only adults should be dealing with these things. She should have just been worried about being a child. I am helping little Heather become happy again, showing her that she can do more in life than she ever thought she could and that life could be good. With that being said, I am also showing her that people are wrong and that she can do more in life than she thinks she can. I am also giving her the experiences that she wanted to have and learn as a dancer, besides being told that she was a sucky dancer, that she could not do anything right, and that she was not capable of achieving or doing anything in life. It's so heartbreaking, so I am doing it for little Heather. Another thing that I'm doing for myself, I just really got to put it out there because it is kind of funny. I started putting myself on some dating apps, and I'm not going to say which ones because, I'm really not feeling it right now. But I didn't know what it would do for my mental health, but let me tell you something. This is actually really weird. It's actually really a confidence and self-esteem booster. I see all these people, and I'm like, wow, I'm really doing better than them. And then I look at my better than them, and it's just a self-esteem booster and a confidence booster. I highly recommend. But continuing on with my future dance as of right now, I am so sorry, I got sidetracked. I will be choreographing and redoing some past dances that I have done in the past for Patreon and just posting them on there. So if the problem really was dance, why would I even still want to do that and even redo dances and self-choreograph dances? Why would I want to do that? Why would I also want to go to Elevé's first national competition that is in June of 2024? I want to go, honestly, because it has been one of my favorite competitions that we've gone to so far. And I love the environment, what the comp stands for. And I love the experience I've had, especially at a big competition, which was my very first one. And I'm going to say something crazy, and I wasn't really sure if I was going to. My premonitions and intuitions, which they have been crazy, scary, strong since we went to this COPS regional back in April 2024. I don't even know why though, but anyway, it's been telling me that I'm going to go to their nationals in June. Problem is, I find it very untrue as I cannot financially afford it at this time despite how hard I try. And of course, this probably isn't helping my mental health. It's fine. I'll live. So as of right now, I owe $1,000 for costume payments that has to be paid first, about $585 to compete in their national competition, about roughly $900 for the hotel to stay because, I can't clearly drive from New York to New Jersey for a national competition in those days. About an estimate of roughly $160 for gas to get there and back, and money for food during my stay, even though I'd bring my own food because, I'd find ways to live cheaper. So the estimate total that I would even need to make this happen is roughly about $2,845. On top of it, I still have to pay my monthly bills and continue to pay off my debt on top of it all. So I do not see that intuition and premonition coming true, sadly, but it is what it is. Hey, honeys. Heather from before the official episode intro here. Well, again here, you know what I mean. Whatever. So, there has obviously been some changes since May with the competition/business. I was just going to talk about it in the next episode of the podcast, some of the stuff, but since I don't know when the next episode is going to be, and I don't want to wait any further because, whenever I decide to set dates in stone, they didn't happen so far, so I absolutely want to make sure this time before I release any more dates that it is actually going to happen at that time. But I don't want these topics to be expired per se, so I'm just going to talk about them really quickly right here. First thing is that I talked about Elevé Nationals, and they did not actually happen. So, would you look at that? I overrode my intuition. Life is so fun. But anyway, what they put out, and I'm quoting from one of the posts, I don't even remember when they posted this. They've taken down all the accounts and stuff, which we'll get back into a minute, why they did that and stuff. But I can't even fact check myself at this moment. But I am going to quote this post. We feel that it is right to give our dancers, families, and studios the top quality nationals that they deserve. I respect that decision and how they did it. Look, it's not easy for a business, especially a first-time business, to cancel something like that. And if they didn't, they were going to take the risk if everything wasn't perfect. That, people are just nasty in that way. So honestly, I really respect that decision, and I commend them for making this decision, as I know how difficult making decisions like this can be. So I went back to go fact check myself on something today on the Elevé pages, and they have all been taken down, and that's because on Monday, August 12th of 2024, they announced the business closure. Going into that subject, after this episode, I probably will not be talking about Elevé in general for future episodes because, honestly, I don't know what's happening in the background of the situation, and I don't care to be infatuated with the subject, mostly because I have to take care of myself first, which includes not worrying about what others are doing around me, because, I don't have my crap together either. It's a great time, so until I get a majority of my crap together, which all the ducks are not in line there, like one's in Canada, one's in Mexico, one's in Delaware probably. So I don't even have my ducks close together, so I can't even begin to get in other people's personal businesses and even begin to care to. And I am so over drama and have already had a lot of it happening in my life already without choosing it, so I don't know, I'm just over dramatics. My thing is, no matter what any situation is in general in life, there are always multiple stories to what is happening or happened. For example, I personally believe, and I'm just talking in general, I'm not talking over the situation because I don't know if it's personal between one person or I don't know. I'm just saying it in general. But I personally believe that there is always multiple sides to a story. The one person's story, the other person's story, and the truth. And when I say the truth, I'm not saying that anybody lies about what happened. What I'm saying is sometimes there are parts left out or they're just simply forgotten about, like because it was so traumatic or whatever the reason may be. And there is absolutely no problem with that. And I'm not saying that there is, but I just wanted to bring that point up. But no matter what is going on with that situation though, I hope that's not because of anything bad, though, such as life or death, illness, unfortunate events, or any other those type of situations. Like I said, I have no sides if that's what's happening in the background. Like I said, I have not researched it. I have not had time to research it. I really haven't made it a priority in my life or to hear about it, so, But, like I said, I have no sides. I have absolutely no idea what's happening behind the scenes. And quite honestly, like I said, until I have my crap in a row, I can't, and I'm trying to say this in the nicest way, care to know what's happening in other people's life, like in the dramatic side, per se. That is not a loved one. What I wish and hope for the future is that everyone is safe, healthy, happy, and whatever is happening is resolved peacefully on behalf of all parties. I also hope that for some reason, if the situation is over any disagreement at all, is that everyone can find a semi-happy common ground and be able to find a way to try to revive and create whatever relationship they can make and keep. Hopefully you guys know what I mean. Life is what I'm finding out way too short, and I have really found that out many times during my life, especially during the last year. I mean, you think you have all this time to do whatever it is you're going to do the next day. That is sadly not always the case. We just never know, unfortunately. The only reason why I might bring Elevé up in the future is to talk about the experience I've had there or something like that. And honestly, I have nothing bad to say about anyone. Well, not from that group of people anyway. But, there are other people in the world that I certainly do have bad things to say. And when I do have something bad to say about something, there is a reason. And I have receipts. Just like when I touched a little bit about my past episode about him being a victim of severe bullying, the names to protect the business side, which I wouldn't mention the real names, but I am trying to protect my podcast, my business, so I will not mention anybody in a negative way. I'll always change the names, which I will go back and talk about more at some point about the rest of my bullying stuff, because, which by the way, thank you for Maple Fields, which by the way, I am making a special shout out, and it ain't a good one. Thank you to Maple Fields and the store manager for re-triggering my past PTSD and pretty much taking me back mentally through times through the bullying that I've had back then, like how I fell and all that stuff. So thank you for that. The only difference is that no one that was working there ever physically hit me, kicked me, or even spit on me. That's the difference. So yeah, thank you. I'm loving it. Even multiple doctors have said that you guys have re-triggered it, so big middle finger to the manager there. And don't worry, there's a bigger story there, but we'll get into that in a future episode. But anyways, there are multiple stories for other times. I also have nothing bad to say about their past business either. I like what they stood for and what they were trying to achieve. In fact, I lately have found out that I want to do something more with dance that's like more meaningful. I just don't know how to do it. For example, I have thought about wanting to make my own choreography to songs and really making it meaningful for the story or purpose and to portray certain topics and stuff like bullying or depression, stuff like that. But I don't know how to proceed with them. The most I could think to proceed with them is maybe putting them on the Patreon page of the podcast, but we'll see. I gotta mention this really quickly. It's weird, and I don't know what the heck it is, but I don't know. I want to have a dance lesson with Brittany Pent for whatever reason. I don't know why. I know you guys are going to say, well, what about Chloe? Well, I don't know how she is about dance and stuff. I mean, that was a traumatic time for her, so I don't know how she's standing at that dance point, so I'm sure that Brittany would probably have such a migraine after 5 minutes of seeing me, so it's fine. So I do have a new goal, though, for dance, and I'm just going to make a little update about that, too. I came up with this idea one day in my ADHD brain, and then when I come up with ideas like this when I get bored, I'm going to do them somehow. I don't know how yet, but I have a goal of doing standing leg holds and wanting to do side aerials for some reason. And I want to do these things for myself because I want to know that I can actually do them and that I did it. Probably aerials are not going to happen, let's be realistic, but I am working on that leg hold. You know how dedicated I am? I am stretching every single day because I'm that dedicated that I'm going to be able to do a standing leg hold. Just a little update about my dance future because I know that was very up in the air last time. I have figured out that I really do want to go back and compete. But regarding dance classes, I don't know where I stand on that because financially, with a lot going on, even more that's happened, there'll be updates in the future episodes, but I honestly don't know if I'll be able to afford them. So I don't know where I stand on doing that yet for dance classes. I mean, I would like to, but in future episodes, we're going to talk more about why I'm having this. I'm not sure if I'm still a teaching assistant or that I'm teaching this year, only because I really have no idea what's going on with that yet. That's still in the air, but I'm assuming probably. The last thing that I want to mention is, I never mentioned this in this podcast, and it really makes me upset, is I want to mention why I was the way I was, health-wise, and that includes the mental health and stuff. Well, I had this thing called POTS, and basically, whenever I change positions from sitting down to standing up or laying down to sitting up and stuff like that, I have the thing where I could pass out. And it's because one of two things could happen. And lucky enough for me, I have both. One is that your heart rate could go up 30 beats per second, either one. Or your blood pressure can either really drop down and plummet to the bottom, or you get really high blood pressure when you change positions. Lucky for me, I actually have technically all three. Ain't that lovely? But long story short, my cardiologist decided to take me off my blood pressure medicine, and they didn't take account of the POTS whenever I changed positions or when I changed doing something, like activities. My blood pressure changes. So when I saw my neurologist, because I couldn't see him for 5 years, because I was having some insurance issues, I finally figured them out, but he told me that the reason why I am the way I am, or was, because your body cannot handle blood pressure changes up and down all the time. And it affects everything, not just physical, but mental. So it also affects that. And I hope I'm making sense in that way. If not, I'll try explaining it in the future. These are just some of the updates. And more will be coming up in the future, like how I almost died in a highway in mid-July of 2024. But like I said, I just want to try to update this episode a little bit. I'm sure it's not the best. It's a little janky. I'm rushing a tiny bit because I want to honestly get this done and out there so I can work on the next several things going on and try to get the podcast back up and rolling. Also because I have no idea when this next episode is coming out, and I refuse to release any more future dates until I have them set in stone and they're ready to go from now on, because it just hasn't worked out for me, kind of like my life. Laugh out loud. Anyways, back to original episode. Anyways, I didn't mean for this to be such a pity party episode, and I'm really sorry if it came off like that, and I'm not typically that person. I am sharing all this because if I can help and inspire others when talking about my pain and struggles, it's worth it. I am also sharing because talking about all this while doing an episode is very, very therapeutic to me. I'm the type of person that keeps everything inside and will not ask for help. And this is also why talk therapy works for me. Because if I talk about my problems and issues to someone, even text it out, then I figure out a tricky situation, problem, or issue that I'm having by talking it out where I couldn't before. It's crazy, but I promise that it does really work. And I'm also an open book. Pretty much So there's also that. With all that said, I'm going to wrap up the episode here because, this was honestly a lot. So don't forget to rate, review, subscribe, and tell your favorite stranger about the podcast. You can follow and converse with the podcast and other listeners of the pod by following the podcast social media pages. The Facebook is Life is a Podcast, and the Instagram and TikTok is Life is a Pod. I really do love hearing from you all, especially on your feedback about the pod. It really helps the podcast become better. And also, if you don't rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast and tell your favorite stranger, how else is this podcast going to be able to do better and grow? You can also find myself on my personal Instagram and TikTok at Miss D's World 2022. You can also find a link tree to everything in all the social media pages bios that I've mentioned above. And we do have 2 separate link trees now, one for the podcast page and one for me. I would like to take a second to mention that the podcast Patreon will be back. You can show your support and love to the podcast by donating to the pod. You could donate by, if you're listening to the audio version of the podcast, clicking on the support link of the show notes that is in every episode, subscribing to the podcast on the podcast website, subscribing to the Patreon, which you'll also be getting a lot of awesome content there as well, or by hitting the payment button on the podcast link tree. When you make a donation, no matter how big or small it may be, I will give you a shout out on an episode of the podcast. If you're not into shout outs, that's okay. I can do messages such as proposals, friendly proposals, give someone the bad news you want a divorce, say hello to somebody, or I could tell someone to pick up their goddamn clothes off the floor. Whatever you choose to do is just a very small thank you for helping the podcast become bigger. So for this episode, I am doing a song of the episode, and the song of the episode is The Sun is Rising by Britt Nicole. I picked it because, first off, this song is a complete vibe, and this song also has a special meaning to me because it just tells me that it's going to be okay, da-da-da, that kind of thing. And I've also started self-choreographing a dance to the song. And yes, I posted a video about it in my public pages, but some of that is due to change, and I will be posting the full thing on the Patreon, so you're not going to want to miss that. So that's why you've got to subscribe. And did I mention it is as low as $7 a month to subscribe to it and get all the cool content? But if you do the $20 a month per subscription, then you'll also see some extra content that I do plan on posting in the future. I'd be sad if you missed it. I think you would be too. So that'll be it for this episode. Tune into our next episode. But until then, please take care of yourselves and your loved ones. Be kind to yourself. And I'll talk to you all next time.